What's up, everybody? Welcome to the CanesInSight daily podcast powered by Andrade and Levine Accident Attorneys. It is Sunday. We're working every day, man. A lot of going on, obviously, the scrimmage today. Can't talk about the specifics. I was there, but part of that process is you don't talk about, it's like Fight Club, don't talk about what happens, but obviously we're going to give you the information that is accurate and that is informed, let's say it that way, as we talk about really what we've learned through the first 2 weeks of fall camp as we move forward, right? So we're going to make sure you're going in the right direction here and talk generally, but also let you know what's going on. So make sure that the people who listen to this podcast are the most informed people anywhere in the Canes world. Remember to like and subscribe to the show. Talk about people that are informed. Andrade and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Andrade and Levine. Pete, hop in here.
Good afternoon, D. We're starting a little late here, but of course, going to bring in the info as always. How you doing?
Awesome, man. Never better, man. I love these days. I can't really say much about the scrimmage other than it was good. And as we sit here, August 10th, 2:57 p.m., I feel good. So we'll talk more big picture here as we get questions from the chat and everybody on here. Appreciate everybody. Remember, like and subscribe. But yeah, man, that's what's going on. Feeling very, very good. Is this a compliment from Elliot? This Pete is either getting slim or his head is getting bigger.
Maybe I was setting my camera up, and I think the angle might be a little bit different, but I'll take the getting slim. I'll take that one, but I don't know that's the case.
I don't think your head is getting bigger, at least not physically. Who knows? All these nice comments.
Maybe metaphorically.
People love the show yesterday, so appreciate everybody in the comments. And yeah, man, fired up. Like I said, scrimmage. My one scrimmage comment that's specific is, I liked it. I feel good. But more broadly, I really wanted to talk about things we've learned, right? So there's still a lot to figure out, right? The game is August 31st and is August 10th, so really 3 weeks away. I think 3 weeks to the day, right? You scrimmage today, kind of get you in that Sunday frame of mind, like that professional cadence, right? Where you play on Sundays, getting you up there to 3 weeks out. And still a lot to learn, a lot of battles ongoing, a lot of football to be played. Then, of course, you have the whole season where you learn during the season. You might think you know something going into the opening game, and you find out once the bullets are live. So we will always be learning about this team, but I think this is a good time to talk about what we have learned thus far and kind of where we're at. So, P, I'll put you on the spot. I have what I'm thinking, but just kind of big picture overall, what is the thing that you've been able to see these guys? What have you learned? Big picture, big picture, small picture, just something you've learned about this team as we are done with the first 2 weeks.
I don't really have many concerns about Carson Beck. That would be my main thought. And then really just that, and this is not, I don't think anything that is groundbreaking because Mario said it, but the defense seems to have taken some strides. And from what I've heard today, and I know you're not going to get into specifics, and I won't necessarily either, but it sounds like the defense had some good moments. It was a good back and forth, which is what you'd want in the scrimmage. We always, I think there's overreactions to, well, wow, great play by the receivers, so that must mean the defensive backs had a horrible rep, or wow, interception, so the offense must be really struggling. It's just not realistic to think of things in those terms. So I think, from what I understand, there were good moments on both sides, and mirroring a lot of the stuff that we've talked about in terms of, again, the young receivers flashing like you'd want them to, Beck decision-making wise doing what you'd want him to do, and then the defense having their moments as well where they're making pivotal stops and turning the ball over, and that's what you want to see, a good back and forth here. And without giving much away, from what I understand, I think that we're coming out of that thing pretty healthy. So
Yeah, and let's so you hit on a lot of the points I want to hit on. So you kind of gave a little summary. So let me start with the first thing you talked about, because I think that's the most important thing, which is Carson Beck, right? We went and we talked about this a bunch, but we keep seeing more test, right, on what he can do, and we keep getting the same answer. So all summer, ever since we got him in January, the question was, this guy had elbow surgery on his throwing arm, his right arm. He didn't have the absolute best season at Georgia, threw a lot of picks. What are we getting with Carson Beck? Obviously rehabbing. We didn't see him in spring, so this question has been there. And the first day we said the arm looks good. So again, we've talked about Beck plenty as far as things we're seeing, but I think we could say right here, as we're now 2 weeks in, one scrimmage in, I have very, very few, if any, concerns about Carson Beck. I think he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the country. And the reason is, we talked about the size and stature, which is very obvious just from the opening media period. You see,
someone told me the other day he's beefy. That was how he was described to me.
Big legs. Up top, he's slight. Like, he's not like a huge, like a Will Levis.
But he's not one of these tall, lanky guys, is the point.
No, and his legs are extremely strong. And his arm is strong and fully healthy. And just the decision making, man. I mean, I'd say the biggest misconception I had about Beck, and I've always liked Beck. Like I said, and Pete, you know this because we were doing those shows. The second Beck, like that elbow report was like, hey, he's going to be fine for the next season. It's not like a Tommy John deal. I said, this is the guy we should be getting. This is the guy that makes sense. This guy is the talent. He's what we need. Forget the hype. Now, having said that, if I were to think of the negatives at the point, I'd say, maybe decision making, he threw a lot of picks. Seeing him, really watching that film, first of all, going back and watching all those games, and now watching him here at Miami up close, and I've been to every practice, his decision-making is outstanding. He really, and what you'd expect, right? This guy's a 23, I think 24-year-old quarterback, class of 2020, right? Just to show you how old he is.
Martin is a step ahead of you here, D. Literally, as you're about to say it, he had typed out a response here.
This is why this guy is the best in the business, man. We love Martin. Shout out to Botswana. And he's saying, yeah, quarterback's 24 years old, left tackle's 23, wide receiver 21 is 24, middle linebacker's 24, weak side defensive end is 24.
And when you put it like this is, it's crazy.
I mean, these are their contemporaries are playing on Sundays and like already have sold jerseys for a couple years. So yeah, I think the age is huge. And starting with Beck, it's the age and it's also the experience with a Carson Beck. So he's seen it all. And I think from a decision-making standpoint, again, the surface level criticism of Beck, all those INTs last year, I don't know if he has the IQ or whatever. This guy's IQ is outstanding. We heard it all offseason from the coaches. And now again, I don't want to repeat myself. I'm just trying to emphasize things that I'm seeing with my eyes. So you guys can be in the same place I'm at as far as just knowing what this team is going to be. He is a very, very good decision maker, very quick decision maker, very quick release. Everything is quick. Nothing about this guy is robotic. Nothing about this guy is timid, right? Nothing about this guy is Tyler Van Dyke. He is a very, very different quarterback. If I were to compare him to somebody, what would be a good comparison, Pete, is if Brad Kaya had stayed 2 extra years and if Brad Kaya was much more athletic and just talented. That would be more what you're talking about. Just a much more athletic and more experienced Brad Kaya. If you're talking about a Miami comparison, just to put it similar. And Brad Kaya threw for a lot of yards. Remember how he operated this offense. But Beck is a much more talented, athletic version. That's why Kaya went 6th round. Beck projected more in that 1st round when he's rolling. Just twitchier, more athletic, better arm, and then he's been around more. Kaya left as a true junior, whereas Carson Beck now is entering his 6th year. So if you like the way Kaya ran the offense, subject to some of the negatives, this guy has much more positives, but all the same positives that Kaya had. Also, I think better in the clutch. When you think about like the Alabama game where he led the team down to win. I
don't know that Brad was ever in a position to, he played pretty well against Florida State, but
Kaya wasn't soft in the clutch. I don't want
but he also didn't, like, when you're not in those moments and it's just where Miami's program was at the time, then you don't know what a player is going to be in when push comes to shove. And Carson has Carson's been in those spots, and it's a little bit different in that.
Yeah,
respect.
I want to clarify that because I don't want to knock Kaya. If he had better defense, he would.
I just don't think he was in those
games.
spots. But like the Clemson game he got knocked out of, and that was the end of Al Golden. The Florida State games, he was, pretty good in. I would say. The Notre Dame game that Miami came back in, he had some good moments coming back in that one, on the road. But how many big games did we play in that era? I don't know how many of them I would even classify as like big games. But
yeah,
whole nother discussion. I'm with you.
So that again, not a shot at. I'm complimenting Kaya by making this comparison because I like Kaya. I thought Kaya ran our offense really well and scored a lot of points, and he does a lot of the same things, just better in different areas. Mo, appreciate you. He says, start Pruitt, one of the more versatile players on the team. Great coverage guy. Played last year. There's even a lot of good linebackers here. I love our linebacker room. But you asked for key players as far as availability updates. I mean, as you can guess, you've heard this before. We're not going to give those updates on availability. Here's what I'll say. Like I said about the scrimmage, I feel good. So I'll leave it at that. I feel good. I'm in a good mood. My head is sleeping tight on the pillow.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I cut you off.
Please go ahead.
No, we have a comment here, and it leads me into what I told you before the show. Your new nickname is the Comp King. Our good friend Ricky Eusebio has dubbed you that. He says you like to compare a lot of players to Hall of Famers. And this is across multiple sports, by the way. This isn't just Canes centric. But this is the problem with comparisons. Our boy Juan Manuel, we appreciate you as always. Brad Kaya is not a good comparison. Beck's way better athlete. That's exactly what D just said. He just said Kaya with better athleticism. So I'll take it. But
yeah,
I think
Ricky Eusebio, the man, right? By the way, Canes center fielder, stud. He's talking about how I compared Jacob Marcy, the Marlins rookie center fielder, to Mickey Mantle in the chat. That was half it joking in that one. But yeah, I think I like to give people styles, and it's easier to give style comparisons with players that everybody knows about. Like
did you
go ahead?
I'm sorry, but I think you dubbed Luka Gilbert. Was it Gronk? Was it Jimmy Graham the other day?
I don't know about that.
I listen.
I think I compared it to Mike Gesicki in terms of the wingspan kind of thing.
Gesicki, maybe. You may have thrown you may have thrown someone else's name out there too. You said Jimmy Graham. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember, but love Luka Gilbert, man. He's a really good player. So again, what have I learned? That Carson Beck is going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the country, if not the best quarterback in the country, and he looks like Carson Beck. I feel great. 26 is saying Kaya with better athleticism would have been a top 10 pick. That's exactly where Beck was projected, right? So I think that's fair. Ruben Bain, Olivier Vernon comp. I like that comp. It's a comp that I've used before. I like that comp for Ruben Bain. The power of Olivier Vernon is what, and they're kind of similar size. Bain's probably a little heavier, but
I think Vernon was leaner in like the waist area, which probably helped his overall like explosiveness and bend. But Vernon was a speed to power guy, man. He was strong, and he was quick too. Yeah,
so we'll see. Lissa's saying there's no scrimmage talk. Again, not allowed to. If you're there, you're not allowed to talk about it. So I'm not talking about it. I'm more here to talk about just kind of general. So again, bigger picture things, informed by the fact that I'm seeing these guys perform. So that's the best way we can do it, man. I want to make sure, again, you guys are informed on exactly what's going on and know that we're not just talking out of pocket. So that's one big picture thing, Pete. Another big
we do have almost 1,200 on here, so remember to like and subscribe.
There you go. Look at that. Josh Gross saying join the Discord. Pete is the GOAT. So there he goes. There's this Trey Moore. The scrimmage has the Fight Club rules. Here's one thing I've learned, and read into this what you will, Pete, but I will say we've been saying it nonstop. We've been saying it since spring, really. These freshman receivers are for real, and I think they're going to play this year. We were saying it since spring, so there's been no change of tune. These freshman receivers are for real. By the way, before we get off Kaya, because base Jaron,
you might have done something with this comparison, D. I think people are on board with this one.
I appreciate you in the comments, by the way. He says Kaya, but he can and will, talk about Beck, run when needed. That can win you a lot of games. If he lives up to that and the defense is better, there's a playoff team. Appreciate you, Jaren. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. If I'm not, let me know in the comments and I'll fix it. But yeah, man, I think I say this as a compliment. I think this guy is going to be just a heck of a player for us, and he's exactly what we needed. Look, I was talking to somebody about Cam Ward, just like NIL wise. Well, what's Cam Ward worth NIL wise? And they're like, oh, you see that bank across the street? I would rob it to bring Cam Ward back. So that's unique, right? We saw him yesterday. He's awesome. So you're not going to replace that, right, in terms of 1-for-1. But if you're talking about following a really good quarterback with a really, really, an elite quarterback with another top of college football type quarterback, I think we're going to have that opportunity with Beck. So that's that takeaway. But then the receivers, right? So I said one of my takeaways here was the young wide receivers are for real. Said it's in spring. I just really like these guys, talking about Malachi Toney, Josh Moore, and Dalen Upshaw. So with respect to Malachi Toney, we've talked about it all day, the reliability, the consistency, the mental strength on and off the field, the instincts. And I hesitate to even say instincts, because sometimes you say instincts and it suggests that the person doesn't prepare, right? Like it's just you're born with it. And he is born with great instincts, but he also prepares. So it's like Ed Reed. Yeah, he has great instincts, but he also prepares, so he knows what's going to happen. So Malachi is like that. I'm not saying he's going to be Ed Reed. I'm just saying that he has good instincts, and he also prepares at the elite level, and he's been one of the most consistent players on this football team. True freshman, one of the most consistent and one of the most trustworthy players on this football team. And that has not changed. Josh Moore. I want to focus on this one. So Josh Moore, he is not usually, it's like anytime you play youth sports, right? I go out to my kids' youth baseball practice. First day you get there, there's like a tiny little shortstop that's super coordinated. He's ahead of everybody. And there's a big kid, maybe lanky and a little behind. By the end of their development, the lanky kid is usually the better player, assuming he has all the intangible stuff. So these are all different timelines. But Josh Moore, that is an accelerated timeline. This is a guy who has incredible body control, incredible hands, 6'4", 210, 215. Mars said he can get up to 220, and he can run. I've compared him to Leonard Hankerson in the past, another comp, but I think he is further ahead than Leonard Hankerson.
Bigger than Hankerson, too.
He's further at a more advanced stage. You saw Carson Beck. Notice I'm talking about Carson Beck last year with Colby Young, and he loves those kind of receivers that can adjust to the ball, use their size. CJ Daniels, the veteran, he's certainly one of those. But Josh Moore, as a freshman, really brings that ability. He is an impactful talent, and he's progressing at a really nice rate. And he's for real.
I'll say this on Moore too, D. We've talked a lot about he's big and he can jump, but his hands are good. He can really locate the football, and he's not a body catcher. He goes and snatches it. And it's one thing to say a guy, because he can run too. Like when he gets going downhill, when he gets moving downhill, like he gets going, he's the way he strides. I mean, he's eating up a lot of space down the field. And we talk a lot about just that aspect of it, that he can run, jump, and all of that, and he's big, but he goes and locates the football. We talk about using the size, but the body control, it's all very impressive. And I think the role continues to probably grow based on what I'm hearing.
No doubt about it. And he is a guy you can see working hard. Like you mentioned, he can run, so he's not a lumbering guy at all. He's faster than Colby Young.
And that was one of my favorite interviews I did for Media Day. It's up on the YouTube page. I really suggest listen. We did a short of that, and it was one of our best shorts ever in terms of the numbers. So people were obviously very interested in it. But I did a an interview with him, 4 or 5 minutes long. They're a really good kid, and I think the consistency is going to be the key with him, right? That's always with the young guys, what it comes down to, because the routes that you're not getting the ball is the focus going to be there, right? Are you gonna block the way that they want you to block? Are you gonna bring the effort when again, you're not the guy who's going to be getting the football? That's part of the maturation process, but the flash stuff is beautiful.
Yeah, he's really talented, man.
I haven't seen him, like, every time that I've seen in the one-on-ones for the portion of the practice that I can watch, and they throw the ball to him, I haven't seen him lose one. I'm sure he has, but those 50-50 balls are like 75-25 with him. And
you see him running with speed. He has strides. Brian saying bigger, faster version of Daryl Langham. I'm not big.
Langham was big. Langham was big. Langham was like a tight end. I think he tried to be a tight end at the next level. Faster, yes, and faster, just definitely, like more agile. Like he's leaner. I've said this a couple times, but in the torso area where he's more is not a big possession receiver, like just a red zone guy. He's more than that. He can be more than that.
Way more athletic, yeah. Way faster than a Langham, like Pete said. So yeah. And Dalen Upshaw, I've been a fan the whole time. I think he's just rock solid at every aspect. He's probably the most complete of all those guys. So I like them all.
I just got a text saying D was about to say Beck was Dan Marino from the same group chat of people. D.
Listen, well, here's okay. So I know they're watching, so I'll give them this. So you ready for this here? Are you ready? All right. So Dan Marino was a third baseman. I believe he also played shortstop, but he was a third baseman, draftable, which, by the way, Beck was committed to Florida as a third baseman, as a freshman. They also have very quick releases. So maybe a little bit of comp there. Big guys. Shout out to Ricky. Do what you want with that one.
That one wasn't Ricky. That was someone else in the group. But
all right, we'll let him know that one. But yeah, so yeah, he's gonna be good. The receivers feel good about one more kind of big takeaway, Pete. Well, I'll give a few more big takeaways, but I want you to see what you think on this one, because this one's easy to see. The size, and we'll get to the defensive backs in a second, but the size of the linebackers, and just the overall ability at linebacker, right? You're talking about a Motore, who to me is an impactful player. We brought in guys at linebacker that are, depth pieces. Some of them have played. Kiko Maunoa was an impactful linebacker, right? Especially last year. This year had more trouble in the system, but I mean, really good cane, and a guy who was drafted by the New York Jets. And this case by my dad is flabbergasted at the Marino comparison right now. I didn't make that. I said the more athletic Kaya one, man. That was just someone threw it at me. I had to make it happen. But no, with Motore, he is much more impactful than a lot of the guys that we've had at linebacker. Just the speed is back. Someone asked, how's he moving? No problem. Size, big time. Experience in the defense. He's a 2019 player. So he's older than even Beck. I mean, he's in the same class as Avery Huff and Sam Brooks. Just, again, I use that as always to Corey Couch. So he has all of those reps and experience in this system with Heatherman and Schiano. And then he can run, and he has the size. He can rush the passer. I believe he led Rutgers in sacks every year he was healthy. So this is a big time player who is not just a depth guy. He's not just like a reclamation project. We're praying he's okay. This is, to me, at this point, August 10th, an impactful addition at linebacker. And then beyond him, West through the Saints gained weight. Kellen Wiley looks like a freak of nature. Popo's working on his body always. Pruitt's more of that dime linebacker kind of guy, but he's for that. Like, if you compare him to people with that skill set, he's got size. we got, I'm sure I'm leaving someone out. Kamal Bonner's lanky and can do some stuff. And yeah, man, there's plenty of talent in that linebacker room.
Defensively, something I've heard too, D, and I've mentioned it a few times over the week that I've been impressed with him in coverage, Jacoby Thomas. I would say that, when he got to Miami, I think there were some people that said, man, what's the catch with this guy? He's doing great in terms of the workouts. He looks good early on, but Tennessee, like he left Tennessee, he had a real chance to play there. So what happened there? Was it something at Tennessee? Did he just not get along with the coaches over there? What was it? And I think people were kind of like, we're going to wait to see, what happens when practice starts here. And it sounds like he's done very well here.
Yeah, but shout out to WG watching from American Samoa. I was breaking bread with my guy, Coach Misipeka, from that area. Yeah, obviously football, the heartbeat of football, man, is that area. Pound for pound, there's nothing better. And pro wrestling. You guys are running two different billion-dollar industries. So shout out to that. Shout out to the island. Jacoby Thomas. Yeah, you mentioned him for the transfer from Tennessee. We've talked about the physicality. The size is clear. You see him walking around. He has ball skills. He can break on passes. He can intercept the ball. He can read defenses. He's been around the block. So Jacoby Thomas, talking about what we've learned, I think we've learned that obviously he's got the size. He's got the experience. I think we've learned that he can make plays on the ball, and he can be an athlete with the ball in the air. So, I'll shout out.
I hadn't seen anything on him. A lot of times we see what we see, right? We see the clips, and you just never know what their role was compared to what they're stepping into. And that's not to say we're going to be matching him up against every, top tight end on the other team and just having him in coverage all day. He's going to be doing a lot of different things here. But I think, like you just said, from what I've seen, he's capable of it. Right. There was so much talk about him getting downhill and as a tackler. So it left you wondering what sort of ability does he have in coverage? And no, I'm with it. I've seen him he's had some good reps against Lofton, against Alex Bauman. And I think those are the sort of matchups he's going to have is a lot of those tight ends. So to me, I've liked what I've seen.
Yeah. By the way, one name I forgot to mention, it was just an accident. Kareem Slater asking, is Chase Smith fully healthy? He is, and he's looking good. So shout out to Chase Smith, another guy. Length, athleticism, experience, right? Kind of like similar things. He hasn't played as much and produced as much as Torre, but similar in a lot of ways. He's a class of 2021 guy who's been around for a bit. So yeah, no, and I'm a fan of Chase Smith and what he's been doing. So yeah, that room in general, I'm glad you brought him up. I just forgot to say his name. That was not an intentional omission. So yeah, he can do some stuff too. So shout out to Chase Smith. So Pete, one more I want to get to, and this is again another one I know that you're familiar with, which is the size at defensive back, right? So we talked about Jacoby Thomas. Let's just say corner. I just think I have learned of what we learned through the first 2 weeks of fall camp. I have learned that we are going to have a lot more ability to play whatever coverage we want with these defensive backs. These defensive backs are so talented between O.J. Frederic, Xavier Lucas, Damari Brown, Ethan O'Connor, Charles Brantley. We're going to have so much more ability to play different coverages and to match up how we want to match up than we did last year. Last year, I think we were trying to protect our defensive backs, whereas I think this year we might have our defensive backs protecting other positions. Not that other positions are weak, but just meaning that like you can do more in different places because you trust your defensive back so much. And that is something I'm seeing from these defensive backs.
Yeah, you can get a little bit more aggressive, without a doubt. Let's see here. I had something I was going to say that I completely forgot.
Well, just your impression. I mean, look, you've seen these guys. You've seen them in one-on-ones.
Oh, well, in terms of the DBs, like as you know, and look, I'm not saying anything here that is anything crazy, but this was in terms of the scrimmage today. D, as you know, there was a lot of people in the building that hadn't been around at practice today. Like it was their first time seeing the team, and the overall impression I get as someone who I am at a lot of the practices for the media viewing portion, but these other people who haven't seen the team, who are texting me their first time seeing these guys up close, multiple people were like, man, the defensive back room looks way different. So has that been programmed in their head from listening to the state media like us? Maybe it has been. But these are people I trust who are, they're ready to get negative when they don't like what they see. So that aspect of it is definitely, I think, clear to anyone who sees these guys up close. And it's going to be whether they all perform way better, who knows? But physically, you've got that part of it figured out, I think.
No doubt about it. Joe B saying, from what I've heard, Damari's looking good, like he wants a starting spot. Damari is healthy, ready to have a big year. From Kevin Porter. Yeah, I agree with both those. Damari Brown is healthy. He came back in the middle of spring, looked great, and he's continued that. He's had an outstanding camp. He looks great. Like we said, I mean, just in terms of, like, if you're walking out on the field, you look at somebody, I mean, he's similar to Njoku in terms of just the way he's built. He can run. He can play the ball. He's been well coached. His dad was a DB. His brother was a DB in the college level. So this is somebody who, has been prepared as a DB. He's not just like, hey, this guy looks like Tarzan but doesn't know what he's doing. I think he is somebody that you put him right there with the Xavier Lucas. You put him right there with the OJ Frederick, the Ethan O'Connors. I just think it's a really, really good battle, at that outside corner position. And I think that's going to give you a lot of flexibility with a lot of different things that you want to do that we just didn't have last year. And quite frankly, I've been watching a lot of Notre Dame. I think their Notre Dame's receivers have gotten way better than since the beginning of last year. Greathouse obviously finished the year strong. Facing the lacrosse player can make some plays. I mean, they were playing much better at the end of the year than the beginning of the year. Greathouse had some big-time touchdowns against Penn State, Ohio State. And they added Malachi Fields as that outside wide receiver, somebody that we saw at Virginia, big contested catch kind of guy. Obviously not a superstar talent or else he would have gone pro, but a big experienced guy that can make plays. Not that much different than CJ Daniels, really. But I think I like how we match up with those guys because they're big, strong, kind of physical guys. And our DBs, our corners are big, strong, and physical themselves. So if we were going against like smaller, quicker guys, sometimes those guys can give the bigger guys problems if they don't get their hands on them. But with Notre Dame, they're kind of brawlers on the outside, big, strong receivers, and they're certainly improved a lot, and they're going to be something you have to deal with. But I like, you put Xavier Lucas on Fields, I like how that looks.
We got a comment here, man, from Chris Ewald Sr. He says Bryce Fitzgerald is a real deal, and this is a man who would know, man. I know he's around. So shout out to Chris Ewald Sr. and Jr. By the way.
Let's get to that topic. Yeah, shout out to Chris Senior, man. Seen him out there at practice. He knows he knows more about the team than anybody here, including myself.
Especially that position.
He's seeing the same things I'm seeing with the coach's eye. But here's what I'll say, and this is a good transition to what I want to talk about next, which is we have learned. Tell me if you agree, Chris. This class of 2025, we hit on a lot of guys in this class. I did a whole video about it a few days ago. Of course, you mentioned Bryce, your son, Chris Ewald Jr. Is he junior or two? Let me know. But Chris Ewald, the corner from Chaminade, he is really, really just a smart, talented, experienced, technically sound, well-coached player who, because he obviously has the physical tools. He was recruited by Georgia, recruited by Michigan and Miami. But I just think mentally, which is what I always kind of go back to when you talk about guys playing early, Malachi Toney on the other side of the ball, I think that Ewald mentally very, very good and is going to certainly factor in, particularly at that nickel position. He mentioned Bryce Fitzgerald. We've talked about on this show. This guy is so, so talented. I mean, we're talking about 6 foot, 5'11", 6 foot, 190 pounds, pretty much 187, 190. And he is so fast, but he is so smooth with a state champion basketball player for Belen, state championship football player, state championship 4x1 at Columbus. His ball skills, I compare him to Cam Kitchens as far as just the ball skills. We'll see if he can tackle like Cam Kitchens, but ball skills, I see zero difference. And that's high end. I mean, this is first team All-America, Cam Kitchens starting in the NFL. I see very little difference in ball skills. I think they're both top of the scale in that category. Every single practice, you see Bryce Fitzgerald flash. Then on top of that, he runs a 4.4-4.3. So the size, the speed, the ball skills, and then when he has the ball, he was one of the best returners in the country last year. So he could score. I think that's just something that we've been missing. And I feel very, very good about what he brings to the table. I think if knowing what I know now, he was a 4-star player, highly ranked. I can't watch these enough. And Chris will even say he laid the boom today. The physicality, you're right. This was a big test of his physicality. And so far, so good in that category. I've been the first one saying that's the question. And I think everybody will say it. Everybody knows that's the question. I don't think I'm being disrespectful to the kid. I think everybody will agree that that's the question.
People around him tell him he needs to be more willing to be physical. So, I mean, at least coming in, it looks like he's taken that to heart.
Yeah, and I've said this, and look, I mean, I think I'm fair to say it. I mean, I've said this privately, but I'll say it publicly, which is, Pete, me and you are Catholic school Cuban kids. When you are in that environment and like everybody's kissing your butt to stay at the school, which is all guys, it's not exactly the most fun place to go to high school. They're like, you're not necessarily getting that level of competitive edge that you do at like a Northwestern or Central. It's just a fact. I mean, like, there's not like how many D1 players, high D1 players are there on that team? So you don't want one of your elite players to leave. So I think you get away with a little more. Not because
maybe at Belen. I don't know about Columbus, man. I don't know. I don't want to throw Columbus in that mix.
Yeah, well, that's where the tackling question started. But again, when you remember, Deion Bush had a lot of these same questions, right? Coming out of high school. Then he goes to UM, and he's next to Rayshawn Jenkins. He's next to all these other guys, Jamal Carter eventually. And it was time to tackle. And when it was time to tackle, he was hitting people, and he became a plus tackler. Shout out to Deion Bush. I know he tore his Achilles yesterday. I mean, yeah, horrible. Probably, I mean, you got to think he's towards the end of the road there. He's had such a long, good career.
What a great career he's had, yeah.
But that was a question mark for him. And obviously he answered that question. But I think you see some of that with Fitzgerald, where you get him in this environment, and it's a much more competitive environment. And if he doesn't tackle, he's going to get a coach on his butt. He's going to get his teammates on it and all that. So I think that's going to just elevate him a little bit, and that's in that standpoint, more so than it was in high school, where he was really more of a big fish in a smaller pond. A great program, obviously, than what States, so it wasn't that small of a pond, but it wasn't, 5 people in the defensive backfield going high D1. I guess we'll say it that way. So is that fair? Is that a fair statement there, Pete? Just in terms of like, knowing how it worked with Deion Bush, like knowing that not just what we know now, but what we heard, or what at least the criticism was coming out of high school.
Yeah, I think Deion was bigger than him. That would probably be, the difference in terms of the frame. But I think Bryce, the thing with him is like he was the kick returner. He played offense. Deion wasn't. They ran like one trick play for Deion offensively. He did not have the same like football, ball skills in terms of like get him the ball and go. Like, look, what are we watching right here? Fitzgerald is a returner, which I think that goes into the tracking the ball in the air. Like, I think he might have a little bit more of that than Deion did. But Deion was, again, I said this, Deion was wanted by Nick Saban to play corner at Alabama, Auburn, when that was Gene Chizik, when they were rolling, wanted him badly. So, was a big time recruit in terms of that aspect. But no, I think it's a different, we're making the Columbus comparison, but look at the offensive ability here. Look at him with the ball in his hands. It's a different
types of players. I didn't mean it in terms of the players. I just mean in terms of like when you heard people say, because you were a classmate of Deion Bush, hey, this guy's soft. This guy's soft. Which obviously we saw what happened in UM. He was a hitter from day one, and then he's had a long NFL career, so we know he wasn't. But that was something you did hear about him at Columbus. Fair to say?
Yeah. That's
what I was getting at. So with this guy, like Chris mentioned, he goes to practice and has done what he's been doing consistently. That's why we talk about him so much. And then here at the scrimmage, I'm not the one saying it. Get mad at Chris. Don't get mad at me. They're not going to pull his pass because his son's too good. But no,
just by the way, just saying what you were talking about Chris too, as a technician, he's put 20 pounds on 2D. I've talked a lot about him recently. really like his. I mean, he's for the future a real building block for this defense.
Yeah, I think he could play right away. I think Keontae Scott with his experience has jumped to maybe the front of that line, but I mean, Ewell is getting a lot of first team reps and has been at nickel. He's ahead of schedule. Put it that way. Dante Simpson, another guy we talked about here, continues. I was out there today. Continues to get a lot of buzz. Dante Simpson, the defensive tackle from Chaminade, that was a big. They think they hit big on that one.
What did we say yesterday in the work?
Yeah.
No, I think he's still, to me, in the driver's seat for that DT4.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's going to get a chance to play for sure. We talked about Kellen Wiley, freak of nature. They think first round talent. And, again, there's a lot of things that happen between now and the draft to determine whether someone is a first rounder. But in terms of just the size and speed and the way people are excited about him, that's the kind of things you hear about Kellen Wiley. We've talked about the tight ends. Luka Gilbert, man, I really want to highlight just because every time I see him, he looks better, man. I love Luka Gilbert. He's so tall. He's such a good athlete. He's a good basketball player, and I think we think about basketball players, think about Jimmy Graham, you think about, whatever, all those kind of guys. You don't think of like a Luka Gilbert necessarily. You look at him like a blocker. He's a basketball player. He can catch. He can go outside the frame. He's coordinated. He's smooth. He's an athlete. So I think that's something that has jumped out to me. And like the tight end group, but really wanting to highlight Luka Gilbert, man, because he really is making some noise.
I heard that last night too. People who enjoy physicality enjoy what Luka Gilbert brings to the field, man.
Let's talk Jared Pringle too. Gerard Pringle, someone we haven't talked a lot about. We talked about the physicality of some of our.
I've talked about him, man. I've talked about him.
I know you have. That's why I want to bring him up. That's why I wanted to get you going on him, because his speed, on top of being not a soft player, right? So a guy that can take hits, a guy that has core strength, a guy that has balance, a guy that played running back in high school and had a ton of carries. But the speed with all that, I think, has got people excited.
Yeah. It's a guy that just gives you a different look at running back, and we know how big that room is and the physicality they bring. But when you're so used to one thing as a defense, looking at one speed all game, and then you see a guy with a different cadence, it's something tough to defend as a defense. So from what I understand, he continues to look good, and he was someone that was pointed out to me as really coming on at the end of spring, because I think he was banged up in the spring, they kind of like, I don't know if it was like a week and a half, 2 weeks that he had left when he got back. So they were kind of like, all right, we got to get him as much work as possible here at the end because he's missed so much time. And the O linemen really enjoy blocking for him because he's a different sort of player. He's not the biggest, but at the same time, we've talked about it. He's not trying to bounce everything outside. He's willing to get skinny between some of those big linemen, and he can kind of find the hole and he's out. So good player and someone that I expect to be getting some touches this year.
No doubt. And then offensive line, just two guys, that we really like, Max Buchanan, Eshel Afatuli, what he's done as far as improving his snapping, getting more experience snapping. We talked about that a little bit. Jaden Wilkerson as being, an exciting young talent that needs time to cook, but has the body type. So, I love this class, man. We talked about it before, and that's
rock shot, throw him in with Luka Gilbert. But man, it's good to see some of these evaluations that aren't the top of the line 5 stars seem to be getting early good returns.
Yeah. So, and obviously Hayden Lowe's a 5-star. So you put him in the mix too. I sometimes I don't mention him just because we talk about him so much, and it's like there's no surprise with him. He's been kind of talked about for a while, and
who's really should have been in this class too.
What's up? Oh,
yeah.
Let's talk about him. Thank you. I want to talk about
who really should have been in this class, and it was a year where he had to do some maturation last year, but I think he's ready to show he's one of the best players on the team.
Yeah, let's talk about Armando Blunt. I mean, one of my favorite players on the team. I just interviewed him for Storm Sessions. He was great. I've talked about him a bunch. When you talk about a guy that is physically, he was a top 5 finisher in the shot put as a freshman, just doing it for fun. He's extremely explosive. He ran 4.8 laser, I want to say, when he was a sophomore, like while already weighing 260 or something like that. That's why one of the reasons he was a 5-star player so early. His production was outstanding. He got a ton of sacks in high school. Played for Central, played for Dillard, teams that produce a ton of NFL players. He is as a 3.7, 3.8 as a psychology major, so the IQ is off the charts. And then he is extremely, extremely aggressive. And no matter where you line him up, this is a guy that can get to the quarterback. He's had an outstanding camp. And if you're asking me guys that I'm betting on, like, who are some of the guys you bet on? Malachi Toney, right? I'm putting my chips in that one and feeling confident. Some of these other guys, but Armando Blunt's one, Xavier Lucas, I bet on him pretty good. Armando Blunt. So these are all guys that have talent, and I'm excited about them. Again, if you're asking me like, hey, Danny, your house is at risk. You got to bet your house on some of these young guys. Malachi Toney, bet on that one pretty freely. If you include Xavier Lucas as a young guy, I'm betting on Xavier Lucas, and I am betting big on Armando Blunt. I just think the guy's got it all, and he's going to really, really impact wins and losses here this year. We're talking about a guy's breakout. A guy that, is in draft list next year. I think Blunt's going to be one of those guys. Well, to see, when the games start, I think his biggest challenge is, when you get physical guys like that, I think sometimes they're so focused on destroying the guy in front of them that they'll be killing the guy in front of him, but then it's like you got to find the ball and make the play sometimes. But he's made so many plays that I think he's gotten past that, where, he's killing the guy in front of him and physically winning that battle, but he's not out here in a UFC fight. He's trying to get off the guy and make the play, and he can do that, man. So very, very excited about what Armando Blunt brings to the table. Like Canes is saying, okay, go ahead.
John Led Monster asking if we're going to get more detailed information from camp after the season starts. Look, as we've said before, man, we're trying to give it to you guys as informed as we can here. So what we're saying right now is these aren't guesses, and at the same time, we're giving you what we can, but we really won't know until they step on the field either. So
no one will. Kane's saying this is a zero-sum game. Everybody can't be doing good. That's not necessarily true. I mean, you could have 2 really good players competing. Maybe one wins the rep, but both guys still look good, right? I mean, look at Alabama. Or Georgia when they were winning championships. They had a lot of good players there, and just because one player was good on the one side and the other player was good on the other side didn't mean that one of them was bad because they lost a rep. They were both good. They're competing. That's what I think you're seeing with this team, is just an overall elevation of talent. I think anybody that was out there at the scrimmage today will say it just looks more complete. It looks better across the board. I think if you talk to coaches and people around the program, the level of confidence is extremely high. I think you guys just watch Mario's interviews and you see just his demeanor. I think you would see that he's pretty confident. But yeah, I mean, look, is everybody doing great? No, not everybody's at the same level. So some of the guys that we're not talking about, first of all, some of them we're not talking about are doing very good. We only have so much time in the day. But some of the guys we aren't talking about maybe, again, are developing at a different rate. Doesn't mean they're not going to be good down the road. Doesn't mean they're not going to be good this year. Just means maybe they're developing at a different rate. But I think this year the team is much more complete than last year. Last year, you knew the defensive backs were going to be a weakness. I don't see a huge weakness this year. Doesn't mean it's a perfect team. Don't misunderstand that. It just means that I don't see a glaring like, hey, we're going to be bottom of the country in this area and top of the country in this area, which last year our defensive back performance, maybe not the talent, but the performance with inside the defense was towards the bottom, and the offense was at the absolute top. I don't see that kind of disparity this year. Now, in terms of like the offense being what it was last year, that's hard to beat. They were the number 1 in the country by far. Will it be top 20? I think so. Top 15? Yeah. Top 10? Very possibly. Top 5? It wouldn't shock me. Number 1, it could even that wouldn't shock me. As good as last year, where there's a huge gap between 1 and 2, that'd be surprising. But that's just because it was so special last year. A lot of things have to line up. The odds, just in general, are not there.
Phil says, can we rehash the looks debate with Pete? Any changes to either your opinions? I'm going to tell you, not really, man. I think wide receiver, I would probably say definitely I feel better about in terms of that. Seeing, and I said this the other day on the show, CJ Daniels looks great. You throw Chance Robinson in terms of size into the mix. Josh Moore probably being more ready than I thought he would have. Receiver, yes. The problem is you're still lacking some speed there, which I think kind of nullifies that there. D tackle, I still think you're lacking some size, but understanding how the defense is going to operate, I'm not as concerned with it. If you see what I'm saying in terms of that one. Safety, I still would ideally, want a couple more bodies in there that I feel good about. Realistically, corner, I feel fantastic about how it looks there. But yeah, I think I feel a little bit better about it, but I think tight end looks good, but I think, D tackle, I think some size in there would be helpful down the line. And then wide receiver, you need more speed. Safety, I would like a couple more bodies in there as well. So, but that's not to get too much into it, but yeah, that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, by the way, or 2100 on the show live. Like and subscribe to the show. I think, yeah, like, would you want Jalen Carter to be your fourth D tackle, like a freshman? To Jalen Carter, or like a Vince Wilfork as a freshman. I mean, yeah, obviously. I think everybody in the country is concerned about their defensive tackle depth. Everybody. Alabama is concerned about their defensive tackle depth. You don't believe me? Go to their boards. Listen to their podcast. Ohio State is worried about their defensive tackle depth. If you don't believe me, go to their boards. Listen to their podcasts. Texas brought in like 5 defensive tackles in the portal. Most of them Jags. Like, most of them guys didn't even play. Like, guys that were rated well below where David Blay was. So that's Texas. So everybody's worried about defensive tackle because there's just not that many of those guys walking around.
Yeah, listen, I'm saying ideally in a perfect world.
No, I know. I'm not giving that to you. I'm saying, I'm agreeing with you. I'm just saying that, like, that is true.
This is not a Miami specific issue, is what you're saying, which I do, which I agree with as well. I'm not. I will say I do feel better than when we got into the back and forth with it. I do think that one thing is looks, and then we gotta produce as well, because it's a lot of the same bodies there at D line.
Yep. By the way, so want to tell everybody about something that is, there's different sales that we talk about. This one right here is like legitimately going insane right now, which is this signed helmets and balls by this season stars, official signed memorabilia from your favorite players, 4 autographed items each for top 10 football players. This top 10 football players scores Miami Hurricane team store, right? So I'm not co-signing, but yeah, these are pretty much guys that I think most people would agree are in that category. Carson Beck, Ruben Bain, Francis Malinois, Mark Fletcher. So some of the stars of the team, OJ Frederick, full-size helmets, mini helmets, footballs, all signed and available right now from across from campus, Miami Hurricane team store, and online, MiamiHTS.com. If you use promo code INSIGHT20, you get 20% off your first item. I don't know if these are included because I think NIL's related stuff, like player stuff, there's no discount because the players get all the money that's coming their way. But everything else is if you use promo code INSIGHT20, you get 20% off your first item, and you got this great memorabilia there at MiamiHTS.com or the Miami Hurricane team store. So Brian Taylor saying, I agree, but Texas and Georgia have big bodies, defensive tackles. I mean, they do, but again, look at some of the things that they did in the portal, right? So if you look at, for example, let's say Georgia, they went and got Josh Horton, right? For their depth. Josh Horton, who didn't even play at Miami. So that's how much you need that position. They just pull some of these portal guys out here. But the guys that Texas brought in were like guys that barely played at all at their respective schools. They got Travis Shaw, right? Let's just pull up here.
North Carolina, former 5-star.
Let's see some of these portal guys. Yeah, so they got Murad Watson, who's a good defensive tackle prospect from Syracuse. Put him in the David Blake category, maybe even a little better if you want to be generous. Then you get LaVon Johnson from Maryland. He's okay. Haru Kano, we did a whole show on him. Remember him, Pete? Did not play at Ohio State.
I would have taken him though. Yeah,
for depth. But again, Travis Shaw, 5-star player. in high school who did not do much at all for UNC. Does anyone remember Travis Shaw doing a thing? He'd be in the pros by now. Cole
I would have
Brevard
taken him too, though.
Huh?
I would have taken him too, though.
Yeah, because that's how important that position is. But what I'm saying is these are not guys that are like, they pay these guys a lot of money. If you take like 5 guys and none of them
And
are
you don't
actually
think
good
you don't
players-
think we would have?
Oh, yeah, but look, we took Dave Blay, was an expensive one. We have Justin Scott, who's a 5-star. So the point is that these guys are super expensive and they're not that good. So it tells you everybody's got concerns at that position. That's what I'm saying.
And again, I keep saying it, like it's gonna get a lot of Bain, you're gonna get a lot of Mesidor, Armando Blunt, you name it, Hayden Lowe, maybe, who knows?
Yeah, we'll see. Dante Simpson was a huge get. And forget this year. We'll see how this year goes. But I mean, I hope he doesn't play a lot this year just because he's a true freshman. But in terms of like saving that position in the class, which was dicey, that you needed him to hit, and he hit, and I think we hit big on that one. I think if he's the kind of guy that if you knew what he was now, he'd be rated clearly a 4-star player. He's very, very talented guy. And he's got size, he's got quickness, he's doing all the right things kind of off the field so far. So that's a guy you feel very good about at that position.
Question here from Ryan asking if we're moving Blunt inside. I think he's one of those versatile players that you'll see in packages there, but I think right now defensive end.
Yeah, exactly. I would agree with that. I think there's guys that can do that. There's versatility, there's body types, but there's in terms of like what they're majoring in, they're going to major in defensive end.
Rod Vick says, guys, we're going to be up 30 every game. Who cares? I agree, man. That's the right way to look at it.
I love it. Let's see what they say. WG, why they talk like Kate Klubnik is a dude? Emory beat him. Beck is winning us the ACC. Book it. Beck did beat Klubnik last year. Was by far the better quarterback in that game. I think Klubnik had a good year though. He really finished strong. He can run. He's athletic. He played great in the playoffs, even though his team wasn't that good. His receivers are awesome. Even though I was surprised, David Lake did a great article, and we actually have more returning production at receiver in terms of like yards and stuff than Clemson. But Clemson's got, those guys can play, and they have a guy. Go ahead.
I'm gonna disagree with this comment in a major way. WG says Mesidor is a Green Tree All-Star, disappears in games. This is a man who's led the team in sacks 2 out of the last 3 years, and I would argue that the other year was because of the injury. That's why he didn't play. So yeah, I disagree with that big time. And again, he was playing defensive tackle for half the year last year, which I think his role is better on the end.
Yeah, but just a quick on Klubnik, I was going to say that he reminds me of Colt McCoy. I don't think he's a great pro prospect, but a very athletic, good college quarterback on Mesidor. So he's played 4 years because really his 2023 year, like you said, he was hurt. So 4 seasons, 145 tackles, 36 tackles for loss, 23 sacks. That's pretty good. Power 4 teams the whole way across the board. So that's good production. I think he's going to exceed that this year. He's lost weight. They sent him to media day for a reason. He looks good. 5.5 sacks last year. I think you're going to get close to what you saw when he was first at Miami in 2022, which was 11 tackles for loss and 7 sacks. I think you're going to see something like that. And yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, 7-8 sacks.
24 years old for Mesidor, a native of Ottawa, Canada.
There you go. Yeah, I got to hop off here in a few minutes, so I don't know what else we want to get into here before I got to get off. But got a comment here, says no news on Lofton, the money's favorite.
He's going to be a major part of this offense, and he is very, very good. He is going to be very, very good. He is going to cause a lot of mismatches, and he's ready for a big year. That's what I'll say about Lofton.
Kyle says Mesidor was all ACC in 2022 and freshman All-American in 2020.
Let's see. Bagging up saying D-line looks sluggish and stuck on blocks. Couldn't move and blocked in the Georgia Tech game. No hand usage. Couldn't shed or disengage. I think part of it is, again, you think back to if you think about the 2015 to 2016, which was D'Onofrio to Manny. Same guys, pretty much. The same players. You added some talent. You had recruited well, but you weren't getting the results on the defensive line. Guys like Chad Thomas, and you didn't have everything working at once. But when you change the system, those same guys that look sluggish and patty cake and whatever you want to call them, overweight, whatever, they started looking athletic and making plays and getting in the backfield. So I think just the simplicity of alignment, the simplicity of scheme is going to make the same players who didn't look as explosive last year look much faster and more dynamic this year. It's going to be a simple change of scheme. Well, here we go. Athens, Georgia, born and raised. Beck's going to lead you to the promised land. He's elite. There we go. STN. Appreciate it. Kevin's. Go ahead.
No, people are getting on me saying, Dollar Bill Bob says Samuel take a lot of players who haven't done anything. That D tackle is a weird position, man. I take my chances on guys who have traits, just like Georgia took a chance on Josh Horton. It didn't work out in Miami, but I hope for the best for the kid there. Hopefully he stays healthy and he's able to become a guy who's a rotational player for them. But it's a weird position. Same thing. Miami's in a good place O-line wise, but they're not there yet D-line wise. The D tackle, at least, like from what we've seen the last couple years. Hopefully it becomes that this year, but I don't think we're in a position to be arrogant about those sort of body types of D tackle, quite frankly.
Right. There you go. Appreciate you, Nico. You all day, every day. What a cute baby in the picture. JD Carmona is saying, who's better, Charles Brantley or Keontae Scott? I feel like Brantley's had the better career. They've been up and down. I would say with Scott, bigger, faster, better in the nickel. Brantley, just such a natural playmaker. He just finds a way to get his hands on the football, make tackles. Probably more comfortable outside, even though I think his body is, you want him at nickel for that. So we'll see. I think in terms of role, Keontae Scott might fit his role best because just he has the size, speed, and the experience at nickel, and obviously we need a nickel. So I could see that. So Pete, man, a good show today. Appreciate you. We'll be on tomorrow morning, bright and early. I guess you're going to do the recap, right, show? Because tomorrow's practice, so you'll be out of practice and do.
Yep. No, they're off tomorrow. They're off
tomorrow.
Yeah,
all right, so we'll do a show
tomorrow. But I'm going to have a bunch of info tomorrow. We'll have our normal show. I'm sure I'll have a bunch of stuff. Just gathering stuff throughout the day here today and through the night. So excited to bring that to you tomorrow on the show and see you guys tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Go Canes.
Go Canes. Like and subscribe.